The moment I stepped into the private yoga studio, my body tensed, not from stretching, but from the electricity in the air. Livia was already there, dark hair cascading over her shoulders, black sweater hugging her curves, jeans fitting perfectly against her toned frame. Every step she took was measured, deliberate, magnetic. "Ready for your session?" she asked, her voice low and intimate, grazing my ears like a whisper I couldn't ignore. I nodded, but my eyes betrayed me. I couldn't look away from the subtle curve of her waist, the sway of her hips as she moved, the confidence in her posture. Something about her presence made my body hyper-aware, every nerve alive, every breath shallow, every heartbeat thundering like a drum in my chest. She stepped closer, hands brushing lightly against my shoulders as if by accident, and I shivered. The warmth of her body pressed against mine, and suddenly the yoga mats, the quiet studio, even the soft glow of the lamps faded into nothing. There was only Livia, and the taut awareness of my own body under her gaze. "Let's start with some stretches," she murmured, eyes locked on mine, voice smooth, teasing, commanding. "But I think you'll find that some lessons go beyond just the poses." Her words sent a thrill straight down my spine. I felt my muscles tighten, not from stretching, but from anticipation. I knew, even before the session began, that this private lesson would be nothing like any yoga class I had ever attended. And with her hands lingering on my back to guide me into the first pose, I realized it wasn't just my flexibility she was testing. It was my attention, my trust, my body. I followed her instructions, stretching and bending as she guided me, her voice calm but layered with an undercurrent of something more. She walked behind me, her hand occasionally grazing my lower back to adjust my alignment. I tried to focus on the poses, on my breathing, but every subtle touch made me aware of my own responsiveness, of the heat rising in my chest. "You're tense," Livia said softly, leaning close behind me. Her breath brushed my ear. "Maybe you need more guidance than just posture." I swallowed, words failing me. Her presence was overwhelming, every movement fluid and deliberate, each glance making my heart thud. She was precise, commanding, yet somehow gentle, an intoxicating contradiction. She guided me into a forward fold, pressing lightly to deepen my stretch, but it was more than a physical adjustment. Her fingers lingered, tracing the line of my back, and my body shivered involuntarily. "Relax," she whispered. "Breathe with me." I did my best to comply, but my mind wasn't on my breathing. It was on her, the way her sweater hugged her frame, the subtle scent of her hair, the quiet authority she carried. Every instruction felt personal, a secret wrapped in silk and warmth. "Now," she said, guiding me onto the mat, "let's work on balance." Her hands steadied my shoulders as I attempted a pose I could usually manage alone. But with her so close, guiding, adjusting, whispering encouragement, I lost my focus on the pose entirely. "Good, yes, just like that," she murmured, pressing slightly closer. Her lips brushed my ear in a soft whisper, and I froze. "Feel every movement, every shift, every breath." The words were innocent enough, but the tone, deep, commanding, intimate, sent a thrill straight through me. I realized, with a mix of fear and excitement, that this was no ordinary yoga session. I wasn't just learning flexibility or balance. I was learning to surrender, to notice her presence, to respond to subtle touches, to feel my body in ways I had never been taught. She guided me into another pose, this time kneeling behind me. Her hands traced the lines of my arms and sides as she helped me stretch. I felt a tension coil and release deep inside me, not just from the muscles, but from desire, from the closeness, from her gentle dominance. "You're doing very well," she said, her voice low, almost a purr. "But I think you can go a little further if you let me guide you." I nodded, my voice caught somewhere between embarrassment and anticipation. I realized then that this session wasn't about yoga anymore, it was about Livia, and about how completely she commanded my attention. Hours, or maybe minutes, passed in a blur of whispered instructions and subtle, teasing touches. She taught me new stretches, but her hands lingered in ways that were deliberate yet tender. She leaned close to correct my posture, brushing her fingers against my arms, my back, even the small of my waist. Every touch was electric, sending shivers and leaving me flushed, breathless, aware of every inch of my body. "You're very responsive," she whispered, her lips grazing my earlobe. "Do you feel that?" "Yes," I admitted, my voice trembling. I feel it." Her laughter was soft, intimate, and knowing. She guided my hands, adjusted my shoulders, and pressed close, each motion deliberate, each word carefully chosen to draw out curiosity, tension, and longing. She moved behind me again, guiding me into a deeper stretch. Her fingers traced along my arms and spine, and I couldn't help but arch slightly toward her touch. "Breathe," she murmured, her warm breath brushing my neck. "Let yourself feel." I did. I let myself feel every subtle, teasing, commanding motion. The yoga mats, the quiet studio, the warm glow of the lamps, all became a private space for bold intimacy, for surrender and trust, for lessons far beyond anything I had expected. Livia leaned back slightly, watching me carefully. "Do you trust me?" she asked softly, her eyes gleaming with a mix of amusement and something deeper. "Yes," I whispered, almost breathless. "Good," she said, "because I have more to show you than flexibility tonight." Her hands guided me gently onto the mat, brushing over my arms, shoulders, and back. I felt my heart racing, every nerve alert, every inch of my body attuned to her presence. She whispered encouragements, playful teases, and subtle commands, and I followed them instinctively, mesmerized by her voice, her confidence, and the intimacy of the moment. "You're learning quickly," she said softly, tracing her fingers along my side. "But there's one more lesson I want you to understand." I shivered, anticipation coiling inside me. Every fiber of my being wanted to obey, to respond, to feel more. Livia's guidance was no longer just about yoga. It was about presence, about surrender, about giving and receiving in the quiet intimacy of the studio. Pinned beneath her careful, deliberate hands, I understood the depth of the lesson. Livia's instructions weren't just about muscles or poses. They were about sensation, awareness, and bold surrender. Her whispers, her touches, her confident control, it was all a curriculum of desire, trust, and intimacy. "I can guide you," she murmured, her lips brushing my neck. "But only if you let yourself feel every moment." I did. I let myself lean into her guidance, into her presence, into the tension and release that came from her touch. Every whispered instruction became a revelation, every adjustment a spark. I was learning more than yoga. I was learning boldness, intimacy, and curiosity. Hours later, the studio was bathed in the soft glow of morning light. I was flushed, breathless, and entirely aware of every lesson Livia had taught me. She smiled, brushing a stray hair from my face. "You learned well," she said softly, her voice warm yet commanding. I laughed softly, my heart still racing. I never imagined a yoga session could be like this. "Flexibility isn't just about the body," she murmured, her eyes gleaming. "It's about trust, surrender, and the courage to feel." I smiled, feeling the warmth of the lessons settle deep inside me. Livia had taught me far more than poses. She had taught me desire, boldness, and the beauty of surrender. And as I left the studio, my heart still racing, I knew one thing for certain. I would return for the next lesson, because the most important lessons were the ones that went far beyond flexibility.